What makes somebody a senior engineer versus a lead, or a lead versus a principal? Hey, I'm David, and I've been working in the industry for 13 years. I'm currently at this level as a lead engineer, which puts me around here. And in today's video, I wanted to share some of my experiences around what actually makes the difference between all of these different levels that I've personally seen throughout my career. Every company out there is slightly different in the way they level people. However, I'm going to talk from personal experience. Starting with engineer. Now, typically in Australia, we don't really have many junior level positions. Engineer is exactly that. As an engineer, you would be expected to know at least some of the basics. That is source control using Git, actually doing basic coding operations. So if you were a Node.js developer, for example, you would have to be able to actually create something, do a couple of basic operations like creating different endpoints, making API calls, handling external dependencies, and possibly doing a couple of tests. At this level, you're generally put into a team with a lot of engineers, and the expectations are low. It's quite common for engineers to need a lot of guidance and training from other members within the team, and that's okay, that's to be expected, you learn on the job. As you start making the transition to senior engineer, now typically people think of this in terms of years of service, but I think of it more in terms of capabilities. What I would expect from a senior engineer is obviously to be more technically capable than an engineer. If I was hiring a senior engineer, I would expect them to be able to run with almost any technical challenge that I throw their way. They should be able to pick up almost any card in the Jira backlog and run with it. That's not to say that they need to know everything, as that's impossible. However, if they were to pick up a card that they didn't know, I would expect them to upskill and learn it very quickly. At this level, I would be expecting them to also be working closely with the regular engineers and helping and coaching them along the way. I'd also expect senior engineers to have an understanding of pipelines. That is, how do you continuously integrate and deploy your code changes? How do you monitor it? How do you support it? Etc. They should have a wider overall picture of the entire tech stack. Next, we have lead engineer / tech lead / engineering manager. Over the course of my career, I've seen this play out a couple of different ways depending on the organization. Some places have lead engineers that lead a team of senior and regular engineers. They're highly technical people who lead a team of engineers to deliver on some kind of business outcome. At this level, a lead engineer may have more technical know-how than a senior, although that's not totally necessary. What is key is understanding the wider business context, getting through the politics, actually delivering on outcomes, working with other teams, a lot of the soft people skills that come around managing a team of people. It's a lot of the leadership capabilities, communication, and soft skills that really make you excel in this leadership role. You're typically considering the wider business context, working on tight deadlines to deliver to external stakeholders. Now, I have seen this lead engineer role split out into two individual roles at multiple other companies. Some places like to have tech leads, which are specifically tech focused. They are the go-to expert in a particular field of expertise. For example, you might have a iOS tech lead who is an absolute gunner at everything iOS. Now, when you do this, you have the very deep technical person with no management skills at all. Well, then you need an engineering manager to manage the engineering team to get the outcome as well. Some places I've seen split them out into two roles, other places keep it into the one role. And finally, you have principal engineers / architect who also sit at about the same level. Again, principal engineers are highly technical and competent people. They've generally been around the industry for a very, very long time, and they know their particular domain of expertise inside out. However, saying that, they are generally not as hands on the tools as senior and lead engineers. Principals are typically thinking organization-wide and are looking to implement systems, practices, and standards across the business. Imagine you were doing a server migration project. You might get your engineer to write a couple of installation scripts to make sure that an application installs and gets configured correctly on a server. You then might expect your senior engineer to do some more technically challenging work. Perhaps they scale it out behind an application load balancer, making sure that your application can scale in the cloud correctly. Your lead engineer would then oversee the entire team's work and make sure that you've covered all your bases and do some of the technical implementation as well. things like observability, backups, your database. They're making sure that the team are working on the correct things to deliver the outcome. Your architects and your principal engineers will be setting the standards and patterns that your team should be following for your implementation. It's kind of funny how it works where the higher up the chain you go, the more technical you need to be, but the more hands-off the tools you become. So if you find yourself in one of these engineering positions, how do you actually bridge that gap and make the jump from engineer to senior or senior to lead or lead to principal? I always recommend checking out Seek to see what other companies are asking for that position and making sure that you tick enough of those boxes. The way I've typically gone about it is when I was an engineer, I would look to upskill and take on senior engineers level of work. Once I had been doing that for about a year, I would then put my hand up for a promotion. Now, unfortunately, in my personal experience, I have not had a company yet reward effort. But that's okay. If you're an engineer and you've got the senior engineer level of experience and your current company doesn't reward it, leave, switch companies because somebody else will. And that's exactly how I made the jump from engineer to senior and from senior to lead. You first have to put in the work, show that you can excel at that particular level that you're aiming for, and then make the ask. So I hope you guys found that useful. This is something I wish somebody had told me at the start of my career, the differences between all of these, which is why I made this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I will catch you in the next one.